What's up, fight fans? This is Big Tone MMA with another episode of the Atomic Butt Drop podcast. Lots of MMA news today. Big news about UFC 211. They did lose a fight, gained quite a few, most notably Eddie Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier. We'll get to that, but first I want to talk about the fights actually going down this week. We got LFA 6 on Friday to kick off the action. Mackenzie Dern is going to be fighting again. If you haven't seen her submission from last year, in my opinion, it was the best submission of 2016. Half twister, half rear naked choke. Just an insane twister opponent's body up into a pretzel, and that's going to be a fun one to see her again. We got ACB 54. Well, first we have one championship. Saturday is just going to be jam-packed with fights. If you're an early morning person or you work the graveyard, you can check out one championship. It's going to be Angela Lee is going to be looking to become 2-8 world champ. She's already the 115 champ. She's looking to become 105 champ. Lady Conor McGregor, I guess you could say. That's on at 7:30 Eastern time, 4:30 Pacific time. So, like I said, you got to be up pretty early to check that one out, especially on the West Coast. And then we're going to have ACB 54. ACB has been making a lot of moves, signing a lot of guys kind of out of nowhere. Signed Albert Einstein Tumanov away from UFC. Bubba Jenkins, former top prospect from Bellator. He's actually going to be on this card fighting Ali Bogov. I'm not sure exactly. The card is not set in stone. There's been some injuries. So I'm not exactly sure what's still on there. I think they said they were going to announce that later this week. I know that I'm probably going to butcher his name. Mamad Khalidov is going to be headlining versus Luke Barnett. He is a fighter from Poland. He has beaten Kendall Grove and Melvin Manhoef. Definitely very dangerous guy. So you're going to want to check that one out as well. And then, of course, Saturday night, UFC Fight Night, headlined by Vitor Belfort versus Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum's second fight at middleweight. He looked great in his first fight versus Tim Kennedy. He stopped Tim Kennedy. And Shogun Rua is going to be the co-main event of that one. Always a treat to see him. He's definitely on the downside of his career, but he's a legend, and definitely always worth checking him out. Some other great fights on this one. Tim Means and Alex Cowboy Oliveira are going to be rematching their controversial fight that they did last year, I believe. It should have been a DQ. Tim Means kneed him in the head while Cowboy Oliveira had a knee on the ground. Apparently, Joe Rogan does not know this rule. It's a very common MMA knowledge, but I think they got ruled a no contest, actually. So I'm not sure why, but they're going to be rematching that. I had Cowboy winning. I thought he would win pretty handedly in their first fight, but Tim Means looked amazing. So that's definitely one to check out. Edson Barbosa is going to be fighting the kick master. And Kevin Lee is going to be on that card as well. He's quite the self-promoter, not exactly the most likable guy, but he definitely knows how to promote himself. It's a great card for Fox. It's gonna start on Fight Pass, then go to Fox. Really stacked card for a Fox Sports 1 card. And of course, big news from today: Eddie Alvarez fighting Dustin Poirier at UFC 211. They lost. We haven't heard much. We haven't heard much from Eddie Alvarez since he kind of got embarrassed at UFC 205 by Conor McGregor. And Dustin Poirier, he's coming off a war versus Jim Miller, back and forth fight. He seems to always, both these guys, they always seem to have a plan. You know they have a game plan, but once they step in the cage, they turn into brawlers. So, but both these guys are going to put on a show. That's some guaranteed violence in that one. That's a really fun one. I'm looking forward to. This card is just stacked. They also added Henry Cejudo versus Sergio Pettis, Anthony Pettis' little brother, obviously. Big step up for Sergio Pettis. He looked great in his last fight, but I had Henry Cejudo is coming off a split decision loss to Dennis Bermudez, Joseph Benavidez, and I actually had him winning that fight, as did a lot of other people. So that's a big step up. We're gonna have to see how little Pettis handles that this kind of competition. Did the fight, the UFC 211 did lose Ben Rothwell versus Werdum. No word on a replacement to fight Werdum so far. Ben Rothwell did get flagged by USADA, which is kind of funny considering he's not exactly the shining example of bodybuilding or anything. So we'll have to wait and see what exactly he got flagged for. As for right now, that fight is off. And I just talked about UFC 211, and I didn't even mention the championship fights. So that's how stacked this card is. Stipe Miocic is going to be fighting Junior Dos Santos again for the heavyweight championship, and Joanna Champion is going to be fighting Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade looked great in her last fight, but Joanna is she's looked unstoppable so far in the UFC. I mean, Karolina Kowinski went 5 rounds with her, and she's probably put on the best performance I've seen anyone put on versus her, and she still only won 1 round, I think. So that's going to be interesting to see. I didn't talk about Damian Maia and Jorge Masvidal. Well, I did talk about this on the last podcast with Nino Beige. We kind of broke it down, but just to go over, a lot of people just want to give this fight to Maia. He's been on a roll. It makes sense, but you can't count out Jorge Masvidal. His takedown defense is some of the best in the game right now. It's on another level. And Damian Maia's takedowns, to be honest, they're just not great. He likes to just kind of grab a hold of you and try to drag you to the mat. And once he does get to you to the mat, he's very scary. I mean, he will find a way to choke you out once it gets to the mat. But Jorge Masvidal is very tough to get there. So I'm very interested to see that one as well. That's probably as far as fights I'm most looking forward to. I want to see that one, just because the state of the welterweight division right now in the UFC is pretty shaky. So we'll have to keep an eye on all that. But yeah, just wanted to go over some of the lesser known, less covered fight cards that still have some amazing fights on them. They probably don't get the coverage that they should. And I'm a big fan of MMA in general, not just the UFC, but the MMA in general. Love the sport. You can find my writing at cagepages.com. I do a lot of writing there. I'm on Twitter at Big Tone MMA. And if you guys have any questions, you can either comment in the comments down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter, and I will be happy to answer any of you guys' questions. I've been following the sport for over 10 years. Covered events, been to events. I've just been around the fight game a long time. So, I can't guarantee that I can answer all of your questions, but anything, reasonable I can answer. I have big stuff planned for this channel. So you guys stay tuned and hit that subscribe button, okay?